Yeah, my name's Steve Rogan. I was an animator on home movies. I was with the animation studio Soup to Nuts, Tom Snyder Productions for 5 years. I came in to home movies right when they were switching over from Squiggle Vision to Flash. So I
Nice.
was the transition crew, um,
Gotcha.
and transition crew to the end. So
Oh my
I
goodness.
think it's a great I think it's a great perspective, kind of going to that new style.
Hello, best friend Brens, and welcome back to a very special episode of Rewatching Home Movies, traditionally a weekly watch-along podcast where three friends break down the 1999 animated series Home Movies. But this week, we have something a little different. This week is our interview with Steve Rogan. Steve Rogan was an animator on Home Movies for a huge majority of the show. It was such a great interview, and I learned so much. So please enjoy this interview with Steve Rogan. Steve, part of the reason I asked kind of for that introduction because I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of your guys' roles on the show was not
Mhm.
just one thing. I know when I interviewed David, I was like, oh yeah, I looked him up on IMDb and he said he's a storyboard artist. And he's like, well, that kind of scratches the surface. Yeah. So, you guys had so many roles. I just wanted to make sure we can cover everything you did for the
Right.
show.
Yeah, no, it is interesting how it happened because starting off, like it kind of phased from everyone doing their storyboard to their animation to then having dedicated storyboard artists, and then a little bit for it kind of melded back again a little bit. So I'd say for me, like everything that I've done has been started off as an animator and storyboard artist. Then for a while I was doing strictly animation. But first season, near the middle of season four, like season four, I did some storyboards as well. So
Nice. All right. Well, let me
yeah,
ask you this, Steve. I want you to paint me a word picture. I want the
sure.
story of Steve Rogan, be him young, teenager, whatever. I want the story of how Steve Rogan got into art, fell in love with art, and then inevitably how that led you to working for Soup to Nuts and specifically home movies.
Awesome. Yeah, it's it is a fun story once I get to getting into home movies. But yeah, I've loved art ever since I was like young. Like I was drawing when I was 3 years old, 5 years old. I remember having like the Crayola, like where you could have the stencil sets where you could draw around and draw like the space shuttle. And I always had a pen or a crayon in my hand, and even in elementary school, I knew I was kind of like the art guy.
Nice.
I always just had fun with it. We had big things in elementary school, like huge fan of Garfield,
Nice.
Opus. We had just a quick little story on one of the things that one of my teachers did was that we had spelling tests. But what we do is we would have the day before we could decorate our paper,
Hmm.
and if we got 100 on the test, it was put on the wall as an art competition.
Oh, cool.
So because I wanted always to win the art competition, I was really focused on making sure I got the words right.
Hmm.
So it was a great little addition to and get me to spell, but also for me to show off my work.
Oh, that's brilliant.
But yeah, no, that went through high school. Like I was just did art throughout high school. Ended up going to Mass Art, Massachusetts College of Art and Design. Was going to go there for illustration, but I heard one of the first speakers who was one of the students at Mass Art said that they were too scared to go into painting or fine arts, and I was like, screw it, I'm a fine artist. I actually went to school for fine art painting, not for animation.
Interesting.
Um, but I was like throughout my life, I was always into animation. I was always saying I want to be an animator. Had never animated before in my life, when it throws. But what I did in school was I did painting, but I also did video. So I was doing a lot of video editing, like VHS reel to reel.
Sure.
Before all the TikTok filters and everything made it easier.
Right.
So, but I was using video almost like as paint. I was kind of doing these abstract videos. It was a lot of fun. But so I graduated with the fine arts painting degree, and for a while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was working in some art stores, doing some like freelance artwork. The way I got into animation though was kind of funny. My wife and I, we used to watch late night TV, and there used to be a late night talk show called Late Night with Tom Snyder.
Okay.
There's this older guy with kind of like gray hair, big teeth, and it was kind of on, I think, like after the Letterman show or something like that. And we'd watch it and kind of like get a chuckle about like the show and his look and everything. It was like, and I decided to say, you know what, I'm going to see if he has a website. So, and at the time I'm living in Boston, and also like kind of like trying to figure out like if I can get work and everything. And so I go to tomsnyder.com, and this educational software company comes up. That's based out of Watertown, which is right near Boston. And I'm like, the hell is it? I haven't had that. This isn't Tom Snyder that I was looking for, but they're looking for animators.
Huh.
Okay. I'll put in my application. And what I found out with my first discussion with Tom Snyder Productions, the animation director was Andre Lyman. This is right when they were switching from Squiggle Vision to Flash. So all the animators that were working on home movies and Dr. Katz before, who were working in Squiggle Vision in that older program, were transitioning over to Flash, and they were looking for people to come in. And so, but right before my interview, I bought the Flash Bible book and just blasted through it. And when I went to my interview, I really mainly showed my illustrations, my sketches, my doodles, and saying that like I in my video, but I had no animation experience. But so I ended up getting hired on my design skills alone, which was cool. And then learned Flash on the fly.
Right. So a lot of the stories I heard, it sounded like a lot of you guys were just learning by doing.
Yep.
Wow.
So yeah, and by doing that, like I kind of came in, and so I had a sense of humor. I had like a good drawing styles and everything. And it was just a matter of kind of getting up to speed with everyone else on learning the program, which learning programs has always been one of my strong suits. So I kind of picked it up and just ran with it.
Nice.
And the first animations I did there make me cringe, but I think I over the time there I definitely improved, and I had such a blast doing it.
Do you recall the first animation for home movies that you did?
I do, actually. And it's one of my favorite scenes. My first scene that I ever did for home movies was on shore leave, and it was the walkie-talkie test.
No. Okay, so we've covered this episode. By the time this interview drops, we'll be done with season 3. And what I love about season 3, it is hands down my favorite season.
Yep.
And one of the reasons I love it so much is because I feel like Shore Leave just kicks that season off with a bang. And I remember when we covered that episode, one of the things I loved specifically about the walkie-talkie scene was that kind of 3-way horizontal cut that had Brendan, Jason, Melissa, and then when they would talk, their little slice would almost light up.
Yep.
And it was so well done, and I not only applaud you for doing it, but I'm also like, ooh, I see some little tricks here. We got, we're held on the eyes while they're talking, so we don't need to animate a mouth. Perfect. Small stuff like that I was just like, wow, A+. What a great first scene to come on. Shore Leave was that's one of my favorite episodes. I really like that one.
Yeah, no, it's the same here. It still goes back to one of my it's one of my favorite. And like I remember, like I was working on a show on another show before I was working on home movies. It was called Hey Moni, and we were working on that. And while season 2 was being done of home movies, and I loved Hey Moni, but I wanted to be on home movies.
Oh,
like
wow.
I saw that and so when I finally had my chance on season 3, because the first thing I ever did on season 2, my first thing I did for home movies was I was the one who transitioned. I did the model sheets for a lot of the characters going from the squiggle vision to flash. So I did all the turnarounds for all the characters. So technically, a lot of the like Jason and McGurk and Mr. Lynch and Brendan are my lines that I drew.
Wow.
For the turnarounds.
Yeah.
But I was more of like an assistant on home movies
Right.
for the season 2, just kind of like the animation help. But when I was brought on for season 3, my first thought was I need to show them that I'm worthy of being on this show. Yeah, that scene I was happy with how that one came out. It was a lot of patterns, and I was like, how can I make this stand out? And I think I did it on that one.
Oh, I would say so. For a first assignment, I'd say you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, you touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
So you said you worked on, was it Hey Moni?
Yep.
Was another show. Did you work on anything else with Soup to Nuts? And because Soup to Nuts and Tom Snyder production, is that like kind of one and the same?
It's one and the same. It was Tom Snyder Productions to begin with.
Okay.
And it wasn't until maybe like the end, like after my first year, probably like 2001 is when we switched over to the name Soup to Nuts. And that was, I think, Tom Snyder of Tom Snyder Productions. He was stepping away from the company. And then Soup to Nuts, the name of it was because the animation and the voice acting and the music and the editing all was done in one studio. So it was done Soup to Nuts.
Yeah, that's
in
awesome.
That one studio.
Yeah, very appropriately named.
Right.
So once you did Hey Moni and then you did home movies, did you do anything else with Soup to Nuts after that?
I did. I did another show called O'Grady, which was on Teen Nick and the N. It's a much less. It's not as known as home movies, but I mean, like there's some like hilarious episodes of that. It's just a show about a high school where there's this thing called the weirdness that happens, where different things happen to the students and like the faculty in this town of O'Grady, and the kids just kind of deal with it, and they kind of like either use it to their advantage or not. And it was a blast to work on. I think it's still, you can see it some on YouTube, and I think you might even be on like Apple. You might be able to download the episodes.
Interesting.
But it has like John Benjamin was in it. Tons of the same home movies voice actors did that show.
Yeah, so O'Grady does come up from time to time. I think the first person to ever bring it up to me was actually my brother, who we've had on the podcast. Him and I kind of both grew up with home movies, and you know, it's basically our love language. But he, I think, brought it to my attention because I don't know how he caught an episode, if it was because of his son or what, but he's like, hey, there's an episode where they go into, I think it's like a video rental store, and the guy who's working there is Brendan.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first time it was put on my radar. But we've had people, you know, kind of tell us like, hey, after home movies, like if you want to kind of keep it on the same line, like O'Grady would be another show that you could potentially, you know, do a breakdown podcast of. So.
Oh, absolutely. The show that you're actually talking about, where he's in a rental space, that was a show called Clarence.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that one they did, like, that was Brendan Small's voice.
Yeah.
But for O'Grady, there are home movies characters that sneak into those as well, because there's this one scene in one episode where they're having a kind of like a people running for class president,
Mm-hmm.
and one character's voice was way too similar to Jason. So maybe I made him look like exactly like Jason.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, you know what? Let's kind of pivot there for a second because Steve,
Sure.
you've been kind of my go-to as of late because
Mm-hmm.
we are in the swing of season 3. That
Yep.
whenever I see something or someone in the background that I'm like, ooh, that looks a little too human to just be a random
Mm-hmm.
background character. You've been the one that I've kind of been messaging, and I hope not
Yep.
bothering too much. But the background catches are something that we just love so much. Breaking down these episodes and trying to find the gnome every episode, or
Yep.
you seeing what's going on in the background. And I tell my friends, especially ones that listen to the podcast and also love home movies, when I get these little nuggets that I could only have gotten because I've talked to you or David or Chris. For example, you showing me in the Renaissance episode, you with, your newborn son on your shoulders. I never would have known about
Yep.
anything like that had I not been in contact with you directly. So I always tell my friends, for every one that we catch, there's probably 3 or 4 that fly under the radar that we have like absolutely no idea. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I know that was one of the things I think I've heard, I think David might have said something like this, like other studios, it would be tough to get some of the things that we got
right.
into it, but we kind of had free reign if
Yeah.
we could fit it in and make it look right. And, I definitely took advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So is there anything that you would think is like probably your favorite thing that you were able to kind of sneak into a background?
well, one of the ones that I see sometimes that people question why somebody's named something is in Ford's company, Octavio.
Yes.
Do you recall his last name?
Oh.
It's strange. It's Octavio Pranas or
Y-
Octavio Pranas.
yes, I do remember that. I think from his headshot.
Yeah, and I think I've seen online people are like, okay, why is it that's my son's middle name. That so I do that a lot of background characters are people I know, and coming up in season 4 there is a I know there's always that question of like where home movies takes place,
Yeah.
and I was the one that created McGurk's license for one scene,
Oh.
and it's a lot of where he is from and everything. It's a lot of puns. I love
Yes.
I do puns all the time, but it's I put in a zip code that it kind of is a homage to like Van Halen, and but like it actually kind of comes out to a location that's in Massachusetts. Um, not that I meant it to be that, but like
Right.
it's I was able to put in his age or his birth date, his signature, his and like his zip code of where he was from. So
Wow. And like I've asked David San Angelo,
yeah,
I've asked Chris Georginas, I've asked as many people as I've been able to talk to if they've had any idea. And a lot of
yeah,
times it's like, no, not really. Or it's like,
yeah.
hey, it's Anytown, USA. So to get a definitive answer, now I know that wasn't, it sounds like you throwing some stuff out there and it happened to land in Massachusetts, but that's huge. We've been scratching our heads
Yeah.
this whole time.
Well, it's the I remember I think when we were talking to David, I think you said like anytime Massachusetts, and like what I actually put down for his where he lives, it's instead of saying whatever Massachusetts, it says anywhere, comma I am. So
Where I am. That's brilliant.
and the zip code, which I think comes out to Andover, Massachusetts, is I think was it Van Halen had an album called OU812.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of, and so it was a play on that. So I think it's 01812. So it's OI812.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So
that's funny. And yeah, and talking to you guys too, I kind of get a general vibe where anytime I see, say, like a yearbook with a bunch of names, I'm like, oh, those are probably animators and people who worked on the
yep,
show. Um,
yep.
so I love that you guys are able to get so much stuff into the background. And I think I've even seen it when I post about it, either on Reddit or on Facebook. People are like, yeah, anytime I see a character in the background, I'm like, that's probably an animator's friend or cousin or,
Yep.
so I think it's so awesome. Now, I did get the vibe that you guys did have a lot of free reign, and it was by and large generally kind of a hands-off thing. It didn't sound like Adult Swim was too breathing over your shoulders while you guys were working. But with that being said, has there ever been anything or any jokes or anything you tried to get into a background that were kind of shut down, or maybe the lead art designer was like, hey, nope, you're not doing that?
On the DVDs, there's like animatics
Mm-hmm.
so you can kind of see like the storyboards and kind of like the pre-full animation and the walkie-talkie test scene, which is the back and forth that it ends with Jason going, "We hear you, Melissa." But if you watch the animatic, one thing that didn't get kept in, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, was that Jason was getting a pedicure the whole time. he had someone painting his nails while
Oh, wow.
when he said that. So it's one of those things. I think they're like, yeah, everything was good, but that part was a little off. It ended on a weird note.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. As the kids was, the vibes were off on that part just a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
That's funny. Were you familiar with the show home movies before you even started working on it?
No, I mean I knew of it. The only reason I really knew of it was being in Boston and on the side of the the buses that were going around Boston were the billboards for home movies.
Mm.
I never got a chance to see it on UPN. I was a poor college student. I probably didn't even have a TV.
Right.
But I knew of Dr. Katz. I didn't know. I didn't make that connection. So when I came into Tom Snyder Productions at the time, Soup to Nuts, that was my kind of really my first experience with home movies, and we would end up getting that just to do the storyboards and everything. We would just get a cassette tape of the episode, and that was a blast because it was just like listening to a radio show. Like the audio and the jokes were just really hilarious,
Yeah.
and the fact that we had the opportunity to enhance that visually was cool.
That's awesome. What are some of your big influences, both with animation, like what really got you influenced into getting into art and specifically animation?
Oh, sure. I think animation. Growing up, I was all in on Saturday morning cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
I was less. I mean, like I enjoyed comic books, but only if I didn't collect them. I did. So I was more of a Smurfs, Snorks, Garfield,
Oh,
kind of
sure.
the real kind of like gummy bears. They just kind of they I liked playful, humorous cartoons.
Sure.
I think if I turned the TV on, I was just watching. I was watching cartoons. Actually, the first show that I watched that wasn't a cartoon that got me into art was locally there was a show called Drawing with Captain Bob, and it was this guy who lived it showed he lived in a little shanty, a little shack on the ocean, and he would teach you how to draw. He would show people, kids who would draw, they could send in their artwork, and he would show it at the end. And so I tried doing that a few times until I realized that I'm watching reruns from the 60s.
Oh no.
So,
But you learned rejection at an early age.
exactly. It's a good lesson. But then I think going into like what I love to do, like with the animation and like my influences, I was a huge Ren and Stimpy fan.
Oh yeah.
I love a huge Ren and Stimpy. I loved Looney Tunes, just kind of slapstick humor, and just I would say that it's like, yeah, I love G.I. Joe, I love He-Man, all that, but like I think it was like the slapstick humor was always my favorite, and
Yeah.
I knew I had the mindset to keep doing that. So
That's awesome. Now, since you've been with home movies from the transition from Squiggle Vision to Flash, and then pretty much to the end, as someone who worked on it, do you have a favorite episode, and do you have a favorite character?
okay, somebody asked me this recently, and I'm going to start with character, and my favorite character probably would be Jason, because I think his character arc from being like that, and I know Marston's probably like going to be laughing at me because being a fan of Jason, but I think from the beginning when he was like just kind of the snotty kind of gross kid to where he would have these, he was like the mastermind of some episodes.
Yes.
Or he was the sarcastic one. I loved his arc.
Yeah. The episode will have dropped by the time this interview does, so I feel like I'm okay to say it. But we recently recorded the episode for Time to Pay the Price.
Yep.
Which is almost every episode I'm going to bring up, I'm going to say it's one of my favorites, because I do genuinely have like 8 favorite episodes of this show.
Right.
But with Jason, the scene where he asks, "Are you the warden?" and then immediately starts the chant for better conditions for prisoners now. I was like, Marson, you can't hate that. You can't.
Exactly.
So
he's just a fun character.
Absolutely. And he's just so all over the place. Ever since the revelation now has been presented to Adele and Marson that Jason knows that he's going to marry Melissa. That's just their destiny, Brendan. Get on board. It's so funny to watch him now, like episode to episode, his attitude towards Melissa is one episode he's so nice. Hey, Melissa, looking good. And then the next episode, he's just like so mean. He's so all over the place. But you know. Yeah, he's also a kid. So.
Yep.
Now, do you have a favorite episode that you've worked on, or just in general?
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite episodes, which I think this will be it'll shown before this comes out. Coffins and Cradles.
Nice.
I enjoyed that one. That one was one of my favorite scenes that I animated, that I storyboarded and animated.
Yeah. Was
the birth scene. The knock knock, who's there?
Yes.
That was so much fun to animate and try to figure out how to have that conversation between Linda and Brendan. They just I know that there's it's always been bleeped, but I kind of sit on like even though it's been a whole bunch of years, I actually have a lot of like the original Flash files and everything, and I have the unedited version of that scene.
Oh my!
Without all the bleeps.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah.
Now, speaking of the bleeps, I don't have this question written down, but it's just something that we have kind of been, I guess, approaching as we get deeper and deeper into season 3. I feel like we kind of hit a point. Maybe it was in Guitarmageddon. I don't recall exactly where it was, but we're like, man, there's suddenly a lot more cussing. We haven't gotten to it yet, but obviously like the Curses episode is another example. But we just have been noticing it kind of hit a point. Do you remember, was it like, did Adult Swim be like, hey guys, have you seen the other shows that we air? Like, you're good to drop an F-bomb here and there. Or like, how did that come about?
I think that's exactly what happened. I think they wanted it to be a little bit edgier. Sure. And they wanted to add some things. And you'll definitely see coming into the end of season 3 and the end of and season 4, there's definitely more F-bombs dropped that are bleeped. There's more kind of like suggestive scenes.
Yeah.
As far, I mean, they get cartoon suggestive, but
Right.
but which did make for make it fun to kind of like get those like kind of like reactions, or how to fit those in and either accentuate it or kind of like make the swears a little bit more subtle. But no, it definitely, I think it was Cartoon Network adults, they kind of saying like, yeah, we need to kind of bump up the raunchiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's probably no way for you to know this, but we also noticed that too, they will bleep Jesus. Was that something that was a decision on your guys' end or Adult Swim's end?
Um, I would say on that, if anything, I never recall that being brought up in our studio. So it might have been an Adult Swim thing, except we also have other scenes like the movie Jesuszilla, Son of Godzilla,
Right.
that makes an appearance. So I'm not sure if like we still fit it in, but I don't recall why it was bleeped.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of it is like contextual, the
Yeah.
tone and how it's said. I do recall from I think it was from talking with Chris. He said that UPN was the one that made him bleep Jesus in one of the first 5 episodes.
Okay.
So I'm sure Adult Swim was, and Cartoon Network was a completely different beast.
Yeah, and I don't recall that ever being an issue on any of the episodes that I worked on.
I mean, it's been years now, since you've worked on this show. Do you ever go back and like rewatch? Are you the type of person that can go back and rewatch something that you've worked on directly, or are you the kind of person once you're done working on it, you're like, boom, that's it, wash your hands, and that's that?
I can go back.
Yeah.
I've been able to enjoy it, and I think not for me. One of the reasons is that I still love the show, but I've also had some of my kids have kind of grown up to do animation or do art, and like and kind of to share it with them has been great. And it's been, if I ever want to kind of stroke my ego, like now like recently, it's had this huge resurgence of like it's still like a cult following, but more people know about it.
Yeah.
And I'd say like now it's more popular now than it ever was when I worked on it.
Right.
And so if you want to kind of like feel better about yourself and be like, yeah, I worked on that. So yeah, you still have to remember what it was like.
Yeah.
But no, it was, I still watch and I still enjoy it.
And not just that, I will say I've seen you also be active in some of the communities of home movies, which I think is just it's such a gift to have someone who worked directly on the show be so willing to, pop in and say hello and say, yeah, hey, I was there. I was there, man. I was there. So did you ever think that, 21 years later, the show would have this much popularity still? Or did you think like, after it was canceled, you're like, yeah, nobody's ever going to talk about this show again?
I knew it was special when we did it.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, I mean, too funny not to be special. But after it ended, after it like the 4th season, it was like, okay, where is this going to go? Because then we didn't know how, like, YouTube really hadn't come on, and it's like, how are people going to watch it? Right. And as the years have gone by, and as people have been sharing it, even from the DVD set that came out to then when it got onto either YouTube, onto Max, I am I love seeing this, and I love the reactions that people have to the show, and it means so much to me to see like how people are saying like how it affected them or how it inspired them, and that it wasn't just a little flash in the pan.
Right. Absolutely. And I feel like, when we talked about the concept of this podcast, I knew I wanted to do it because there was nothing like this out there. And I knew home movies has such a fan base that they would be like, yes, absolutely, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
But simultaneously, I knew part of it had to be, well, it can't just be like me and my brother or me and someone else who's obsessed and in love with the show, just sitting there quoting it for an hour and a half. Like that just doesn't quite work. So I think the fact that the podcast is simultaneously me reliving like this show that I have so much love for, but simultaneously introducing it to two people who are very close to me, who are kind of learning not only about this show, but it's like you're learning a part of, I grew up on this, a lot of my humor, a lot of, they're noticing, they're like, wow, now that we've watched home movies, we realize you quote home movies a lot. So yeah, it's so cool to see it still have this popularity so much longer after the show is over. As a matter of fact, as I was hopping on to get onto this call, I saw somebody had posted in the Home Movies Brendan posting page that they want to see pictures of people's home movies tattoos. They're looking to get a home movies tattoo and they need some inspiration. So
yeah.
Have you ever ran into that in the wild, like somebody with a home movies tattoo?
I haven't seen it in the wild, but in that in the Brendan posting site, someone did ask that question a long time ago, and people started posting their tattoos. Mm-hmm. And so like I've been able to see this, like people getting McGurk tattoos, getting the Chiquita banana tattoos, the cow tattoos. I did a what I posted on there, I posted my tattoos because I was like, I have the OG home movies tattoos, because there's one scene coming up in season 4 where they're in a kind of like a Spencer Gifts store. Mm-hmm. And in the background, there are temporary tattoos that you can buy. And they're all my tattoos.
Oh, wow.
And so they're simple ones. Like there's like a star, there's some stars, and there's this like symbol that I have on my arm, but I stuck them in there. So like I showed an image of Walter and Perry in front of this display case that has all my tattoos in it.
That's awesome.
And then I had my images of my tattoos next to it.
Nice. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. What was, as far as you remember, what was just like a typical day working on an episode of Home Movies?
One thing about the typical day would be, we had different there's different phases of like the show. So like if say we're just getting into it and doing character design, which this was my absolute favorite thing to do, is we would get the script, we would get audio clips of the characters, and the animators would kind of like have a day, 2 days to kind of listen to the audio, read kind of like who this character was, and then come up with what they thought was what the character would look like. And we would meet up have a meeting in the director's office, and we would listen to an audio clip, and we would kind of just cycle through all the different images, like sketches that all the different animators did. And then if one made you laugh or anything, like that's how the background characters as the new characters got picked, the styles. So that was a lot of fun. When it came to then getting into storyboard, it was the time that we had to animate an episode. We were basically pushing out an episode from start to finish in about a month.
Okay.
Compared to like Simpsons could have been like 6 months to a year.
Right.
To get an episode done. So the speed that we had to get it done was like a breakneck speed. So you'd have to like, the animators, we would get about say like 5 minutes each, or like 3 to 5 minutes each to storyboard or to animate. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of a mad pace to get that done, get the meet up with all the other animators to see if things work or don't work, if jokes fall flat or not, make some edits. And then once all the storyboards and like it was time for animation, it was just try to get it done as fast as you can.
Yeah.
the show and the animation was like a passion project. Like we all loved it, but we burnt ourselves out a few times just trying to meet those deadlines.
Right.
Like either like working late nights or taking breaks in our little foosball room. But it was the speed wise, it was breakneck speed, but the way that the studio was set up, we were all there together in the same space. So we were able to bounce off each other and kind of like, if I was working on a scene and somebody might poke their head over my shoulder and they either laugh or they say, oh, maybe you got to do something like this. So it was really collaborative. It was really, so like, as far as working with all the other animators and art directors, everything, it was wonderful. Just because there was so many talented people that were just able to kind of give their opinions, and it was all right there.
Yeah. Now, everyone I've talked to who's worked on this show talks about kind of that and just the vibe of working there, and definitely like the breakneck speeds, things had to get done, and learning by doing, but also, you know, Adult Swim being pretty hands off and stuff like that. So it gave everyone this kind of room to do what they want to do and figure it out creatively, and whether it had to get done just because it had to get done and that's the time frame, or because, you know, you wanted to add these little extra things in the background. It sounds like it was just like this perfect mixture to make this show what it is. Have you, working on other shows before and after that, have you ever kind of felt the same way in another studio, or was that like just the magic job that you'll be chasing the rest of your life?
My experience like that, and for what I've heard, is that was a very rare case of how we worked.
Yeah,
it was, I like just the amount of freedom that we had to add in those inside jokes or to create the designs for new characters. Because at other studios, there was whole different departments, and then you were an animator or you were a storyboard artist.
right.
So to be able to have your hands in everything, and then even sometimes like when your animation would make a joke good enough that the audio would then have to be switched to fit your animation. Like that happened a few times in some scenes where you're able to kind of like fit in jokes where like even the writers didn't even think of the joke before we visually put it in.
Yeah. Did you mention if you had a particular favorite episode or not?
I think I mentioned for season 3, I think it was Coffins and Cradles.
That's right. Yeah.
And then season 4, there's a few that I actually like for different reasons. There was, I think, Bye Bye Greasy is just it's just that's it. That is such a tight episode.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the quality of the animation,
yeah,
and the jokes, everything really just kind of like clicked on that one.
I'm very excited to get to that episode, especially because Barson and Adele do have a soft spot for musicals. So I'm very excited for that one.
There's other episodes like Camp was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And in Camp, one of the scenes, and that was one where I was more animating than I was storyboarding.
Mm-hmm.
But for certain scenes that I worked on, which happened at night, I remember going out in my backyard and trying to figure out like what the right lighting is for nighttime scenes.
Yeah. And
trying to translate it into like the scenes and trying to make sure that like the nighttime shadows or the moonlight shadows and everything. So like that was a lot of fun.
That's
also
awesome.
I mean, just They Might Be Giants being in it was a lot of fun.
Right.
And the Wizard's Baker.
Oh yeah.
And I get the people won't see it yet in on the podcast, but my favorite scene that I did, I'm always proud of is spaghetti time.
I was going to say, Wizard's Baker to me is so great because of all the quotable lines that come out of it.
Yeah.
Spaghetti time and swords.
Yep.
Like if you had a old reliable of how to respond to a Coach McGurk meme or quote, spaghetti time and swords are right up there with DVD.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so funny. All right, just a few more questions.
Sure.
So I'd like to know, Steve, personally for you, what does your creative process look like? If you've got an animation or illustration or something that you need to get done and you got, all the time that you need to sit down and work out, what does your process look like?
Sure. I think what I love doing is I'm a researcher, and you give me a little bit, just a little nugget of what you're looking for, like be it a concept for a design or a character or anything. I will drill down and I'll try to figure out in my head, like the whole story behind what I'm doing. And so like I will quickly just kind of like get sketches out. Just I have to, it's like get pencil and a paper, just sketch out ideas, thoughts, and then I love going back and forth and trying to like add more detail, more layers, but really just kind of the first thing, but the most important thing is I think my first impression of just kind of hearing something or like thinking of a good idea, and then like I feel I'm confident to say, okay, I can get this out of my head really fast before I forget it. And then after that, it's really just like pulling influences from whether it be like say I'm designing a logo, it might be design how something works or how it affects people, or I think of all like the keywords and or the important things about what I'm trying to design, and try to fit it in, but still I think that keep my designs like fast and light and unique. I don't follow the rules very good.
Yeah.
But
I feel that.
A lot of breaking the rules, I guess, is what I do.
Yeah. Well, I think home movies in general, just with, I've said it so many times before, but the learning by doing, sometimes just doing it is the first step. So, all right, this is a question I have to ask you, even though I'm fairly sure I know the answer, or there isn't an answer, but I have to ask anytime I talk to someone who worked on home movies. Do you know why garden gnomes? Why was garden gnomes the thing that we're gonna, hide in the background or put in every episode? Is there really some kind of deep meaning behind it, or is it just because it is a garden gnome, it's an inoffensive object that is easy to put into scenes?
I'm going to say that I wish I had the answer for you. I have a lot of home movies knowledge and a lot of backstories. The garden gnome started before my season.
Yeah.
And I know that I think David and Chris, they both talked about like Damon Wong.
Yeah.
Damon Wong and the art director Aya Fukuda.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to talk to Damon or Aya, they may have a better idea than I did.
Yeah, that's kind of the general consensus that I got. And please believe me when I say I would love to talk to Damon or Aya or both, to be honest. I have reached out. No bites yet, but I am very hopeful. I understand people are busy, but yes, that would be, especially because I personally am also a huge Bob's Burgers fan. So I would love to talk to Damon for a very long time. Absolutely.
Yep.
So do you have a favorite moment from just working on the show, whether it had to do with getting something in the show itself or just while working on it, just a moment that you will just never, ever forget?
Yeah. I think, well, first was would be even before like it was show it when the show first premiered on Adult Swim, knowing that home movies was like the first show ever to be shown on Adult Swim.
Right.
We had a like a staff party at the studio where we're watching on a projection screen, and just kind of knowing it's like this is something good.
Yeah.
And it's on this new thing. It's on this thing called Adult Swim. Let's see what happens. And I think that was like a moment where it's like, okay, this is good. Something's going to stick here, even though it wasn't a show that like, it wasn't an episode that I worked on.
Right. But
the fact that like I was part of that, like I was really proud of.
That's awesome.
And then other than that, I think just in general, I'm still in touch with out of all the places I've ever worked, I'm still in touch with a bunch of my friends from Soup to Nuts. It was just such. I mean, I think you're finding out they're just wonderful people. Like we kind of struck gold with like the crew that we had. It was just funny, talented people that we got to work with.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing, and it makes my heart so happy. There's a thing they say: never meet your heroes, and especially for me, someone who's coming up in stand-up comedy, I've learned that with comedians firsthand. Sometimes you definitely have a different picture in your mind of how someone is, and getting to talk to you and David and Chris, and just getting to interact with the community, it's made me so happy that everyone is just so cool and chill and down to earth. And had I talked to one person who worked on the show and they were like, this is a nightmare, I hated every second of it, it would have broken my heart. But just knowing that everyone was just so cool makes me just love this show so much more. Yeah. So I think it is one of those instances where that kind of bond, that work relationship, everybody being so kind and helpful and supportive, and then obviously living through having to churn these episodes out so fast and kind of the trauma bonding when you have to do that kind of stuff. I think all of that really shines through in the product of home movies, and it's just one of those rare cases where, because it had such a great behind-the-scenes vibe, it translated to the show itself. So, again, like, kudos. Like, just everything you told me that you've done and worked on the show, I'm always immediately like, I love that scene, or that's one of my favorite episodes. So, like, genuinely, thank you so much for talking to me and doing this. Now, I do have one more question, and again, you can keep the answer as long as short as you want, but this is just a general. What advice would you have for anyone who wants to get into animation or illustration, especially today with so much kind of technology and resources at hand? What advice would you give to someone if they were interested in pursuing either animation or illustration?
Actually, it was interesting timing because last night I was at my son, who is at Mass Art. He's an animation major at Mass Art, so he's continuing the legacy, and they had their all school show. So I actually had a chance to kind of like give some of this advice. Is network. It's like, don't be afraid to reach out to people who either like you're influenced by, who like so people who you see who you kind of like enjoy what they do, or and ask questions and get to know people. Like, network, because like if you're doing everything but you're keeping it to yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to flourish in the industry. So networking is huge, but also don't be afraid of a program or a software or anything. Like, focus on your humor, your drawing style, your creativity. Programs are just programs. That's literally how I got into it. Is that I felt I was funny. I had good design. I had good skills. I just needed to learn a program. And once I learned it, then it was just a tool. to use. So work on because there are other people I've seen who have learned how to animate in 3D or Flash or whatever, but they're not funny, or they're not.
Right.
It gets really stiff because your creativity is going to come out on whatever software or tool you're going to have.
Right.
You're going to be using. My main art style right now is kind of a strange one. It's like I go into VR and I draw in 3D. And there's an app called Big Screen in VR, and I will I'll watch shows, or I'll listen to conversations, and I can draw in 3 dimensions right in front of me, and it's very temporary, but it's like speed, and it's just you get your funny out. Like, programs are just tools. The rest is just work on your skills and your humor and your story.
Absolutely. And honestly, I think kind of those two pieces of advice, which are phenomenal pieces of advice, by the way, thank you so much. They kind of fold in on each other, right? Because if you do learn the program and you do have the skills, but your humor's not quite there, you have to network and find those other creative types that you can kind of vibe with, or, you know, someone who maybe doesn't have those program skills, but they do have that humor. And
absolutely.
So if you're falling short in one department, that's where networking really comes in to kind of help you either learn or connect with people who have that humor or have that knowledge, or, you know, whatever. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, Steve, honestly, that is all of the questions that I have for you today. And again, I cannot thank you enough for this. I've learned so much. The last thing, though, I would like you to do, if you have any projects or anything coming up or that's already out there that you would like to promote for yourself personally, I'd like you to do that. But also, after you do that, I'd also like you to promote both of do you have 2 sons?
I do, yeah.
And they're both like extremely creative and talented. So please, anything that you have that you want to promote, and then promote their stuff as well.
Sure. Yeah. I guess what I have going on right now, I'm kind of in a moment of kind of redefining what I want to do. If you look onto most platforms like Reddit or Instagram or anything, if you look up Mubble Traker, that's my username. It's MUBBLETRAKER. It's kind of a play on troublemaker. That you can see a lot of my my 3D VR art that I've been doing recently.
Oh, cool. And
kind of if you're on VR, you can pop in and say I'm drawing on there a lot, and it's a great instant gratification because I'm drawing in front of people and they can see me drawing, and it's very temporary, but it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That's been a huge thing. Other than that, I'm still looking to be creative and just continue. But no, it's been this has been a blast. But yeah, no, and also my as you mentioned, I have 2 sons. One of them is following my path. He's in school for animation right now. He actually has done some work with Game Grumps, and so I'm looking forward to his skills are already beyond mine, and it's so much fun to watch. You can see his work on Instagram at cave_art404. I'd say look for he's going by Julian Cave. If he's I could see him being an animation rock star in the future.
Oh, that's awesome.
And my other son, Luke, my oldest son, who is the one that made his appearance in Renaissance, he's been an artist his whole life. And he started off young. He started off on home movies, but his passion right now is he's doing 2 things. He's created his own tabletop role playing game called Nero. It's kind of a conspiracy horror investigation role playing game. You can check that out on Instagram at Nero TTRPG. And he's also the work. Another one of his skills is he does visual narrative. He does editing, publishing. He's collaborating with a few guys, and they've created a magazine that promotes a way for artists to show their art, but to ensure that it's not reappropriated by AI.
Oh,
And
smart.
it's a platform where they're able to show your art, and you're protected from your art being stolen. And that's a great thing. It's horijon.org. It's HORIJON.org. Definitely, they're looking for artists to kind of put their work up there. I absolutely love promoting it because I think it's a great idea.
Wow. Well, I know so many artists that, one, absolutely deserve to have their art put out there like that, who would love to share it. But two, it's very smart, but unfortunate that we have to now start creating these barricades to ensure that AI is not going to just steal your art. And so for them to set up something like that, I think it's really smart. It's kind of preparing for the future, which you see how technology started when you worked on home movies and kind of where we're at now. So
Yep.
The big thing is pivoting and moving along with the technology. So I think it's really smart and something that a lot of artists would definitely get behind. So yeah, absolutely. Great plugs.
Thanks. Yeah. No. No. Thanks for letting me do that, because I think it's great for artists. It's great for those guys too. So my boys, and not to forget, I also have a daughter who's going to be the biggest rock star out of all of them coming up soon. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's 15. She's actually been animating ever since she was like 8 or 9.
Oh my goodness.
She's just, yeah. So like it's not just the two of them. There's a third one that, and I'm fortunate to be like all my kids are just so talented.
Yeah, it sounds like art is in the blood. Is your wife an artist as well?
She is, yeah. She is a photographer, but also like she is, I mean, just crafty as hell. Like she's done soap making. Right now she does ASMR chalk crushing videos.
Oh, okay.
They're just so much fun. It's so much creativity in this place. It's wonderful.
Well, that's awesome. And I mean, kudos to you for creating this environment that it sounds like literally everyone in your household is very comfortable expressing themselves creatively. And I think that's something that more people need. We need to nurture this creativity. Sometimes creativity comes from the opposite, but to provide this kind of safe space for everyone in the household to create art, I think is just a beautiful thing. So kudos to you, Steve.
Thank you.
So, and again, thank you so much for doing this interview. I learned so much. It was such an honor to talk to you.
And let's keep the conversation going. Anytime you have a question, I'm going to be here for you.
I really, really appreciate that. And I hope you don't regret saying that on a podcast, because I will hold you to it.
I know you will.
Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon.
Sounds great. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
That's going to do it for this episode of Rewatching Home Movies. Thanks again to Steve Rogan. Join us next week for a very special Season 3 recap. If you liked what you heard, check out our Linktree at Linktree/RHMpod. There you can like, follow, and subscribe. Send us an email to request free stickers, or leave us a 5-star review. I will read 5-star reviews on the podcast. Thanks to Jens for the refresh of our logo, and Chris Bongat for the use of our theme song. On behalf of myself, Tim, and my co-host, Marcin, and Adele, thank you for rewatching home movies with us. We'll see you next week. Bye.
And then afterwards, all right, same time next week, guys.